Okay, as an introduction, I show you those images. So I show you those images with diaporama, but with no comments. No comments. Just have a look, and after we can talk about this later on. Okay, I'm ready. So now I'm talking about application of patterns, of new patterns in architecture. First. Yes. First, a very old work I did. This work was just at the learning point when I was starting to learn Islamic patterns. So at some point, I decided to do something like an exercise, because you can draw, but sometimes it's nice to have the thing in real size. So this was at the university when I was teaching mathematics, and with students we start to do something. But it was just it was something like just do it, no asking any permission to the authority, just do it. So this is painting. The pattern is not original. It's a 664 pattern with just some few adaptations. Then, okay, it's not painting, drawing, and then we add that kind of things here, because I was thinking about Mukarnas. So here we have columns with sample pattern. This sample pattern, maybe it's a new pattern, I don't know. It's kind of pentagonal but regular, because pentagons are not regular pentagon, of course. And things like that. Playing with a freeze, etc. And of course, quotation to the work of Escher. Lizard coming into the pattern and getting transformed into birds. Okay, now after we like to do something else. We did a fountain, but the same way we just go here and we just did it without any permission, and it was okay. Now something else. When I was working with book bindings, one first book binding was for my book, my first book, Géométrie douce. But it's a unique exemplar of bookbinding, using standard tiles in a special way, like this. Oh, then finally it looks like that. Another one for another copy of the same book is somewhere. Maybe here. It's a recent work. Another one, the one I like very much, is for a book I like very much. Is a book of Bourgoin, Les éléments de l'art arabe. It's a very famous book from. It's an ancient. It's an old book. I think everybody knows. Everybody here knows this book. So we did. So it's very old work. It's 90, 80, something. So I was starting with Penrose. All around the box is Penrose styling, and I just use decoration with decoration like that. Yes. With part of the decagonal standard pattern. So it was a kind of relationships between Penrose and the decagonal standard pattern. And inside we have a part, some pages that are banded. And we have just plates, very, very nice plates. Okay, that's for then. I have one work in Paris at the Paris Science Museum, le Palais de la Découverte, here. Okay, it's here, and that's. I have this room, that place that is close to the room dedicated to mathematics and dedicated to the number p. And I had to do something with quasi crystals. So what I did is kind of a quasi crystal on the wall, quasi crystal, but not pentagonal, but octagonal, and some panels here showing the relationships from quasi crystal to Islamic patterns, eventually new Islamic patterns. But here, that place is for real quasi crystal. Here we have a real quasi crystal given by Denis Gracias, who is one of the men of the quasi crystal theory. So, and here we had a puzzle. A puzzle. I would have liked to show you this puzzle, enfin, to bring this puzzle here, but I lost it. Okay, now yes, here I have something that's kind of new work, new pattern, but in the traditional way. It's the octagonal family. So you see what I that I use kind of quasi crystal. Finally, the whole pattern is not quasi crystal because it's inside a square. But I use some theory of quasi crystal to make it. You know, you have rhombus, and the rhombus is cut into other rhombus in a special way. So I use this just to have the structure of my pattern. And so from this I can decide I'm going to have a star of 96 here at the center and around satellite stars of 16. And maybe here can have a star of 32, why not? And that's artistic choices. Then that's my pattern. So you have to know that all the tiles you have here in pink, this cannot be done by computer. It has to be done by hand because it's it's a tricky thing because here you have a symmetry of 96 and here you have symmetry of 8 or 4. So the transition is not an obvious transition. There is no natural transition. You have to make it by hand. And this was, okay, now that's the final thing. And this was a project for reconstruction, for restoration of my work in that university 25 years after. So now, more recent work Okay, recent work in architecture in the Emirates. All those works are with the architect Foster. Foster, okay. Ah, merde. So first was in Abu Dhabi in the project for the new central market. It's a very huge project. It's amazing. Okay, we have. It's supposed to have 3 tours, and so you can see better in this image. We have a large podium and 3 towers. The first, these red buildings are place for the new souk in place of the old souk. It's like the historic center of Abu Dhabi. Here you have a new retail, a kind of international retail, and here you have bridges. A bridge because there is an avenue here and a bridge. So this is supposed to be something from tradition. Here something from modernity and a bridge in between. So what I have to do is to do patterns for the facade made by panels. So what I did, okay, I wanted to again to use quasi-crystal construction development. So I use this famous process, inflation process, but with that I cannot do exactly what I wanted to do. So I tried with something else because I wanted a grid for everything. I tried with another starting point, but finally the nice thing, the very interesting thing was to mix the both. And this, okay, so that's my basic grid, and from that I can draw patterns with standard traditional tiles, but in the different scale, but each scale is connected to the other, and this preserves the harmony of the whole thing, for example. Okay, different scale, different drawings. So now the idea was to have not a pattern with central symmetry, etc., not a whole independent pattern, but something that works like details squatted into in the facade. So, but the point is that the panel have not to be joined, to be together. They need space in between. And you see there's a different scale, but they are connected. Okay. So, study for maybe I go. Okay. Okay, that's just some work, some idea for the transparent patterns, colored patterns, because the idea was to have different scale into the same pattern. For when we are in the distance, we can see something, and we are closer, we can see something else. And the nice thing happened here is that the decomposition of each traditional tiles into square and rhombus. That was a new connection with traditional pattern and quasi-crystals. So now this was for doors, study for doors. That one, another one, etc. And then, at some point, the project was like that. Just details with this distance in between. So this was perfect, but after we have some change occur. So, and here you see the bad thing to do. The panel don't have to be connected like that. Because when you follow the line, what you get here is just frustration. And that's very bad. So now things that's the first study in the real scale at Foster's in London. Okay, then that's the construction. Maybe I have some image. So you can see it's very huge scale. And now the first part is finished, and outside it is made with concrete, kind of concrete. Inside it's wood, and this is glass with metal, aluminium. But it's very well done, very well done. And here we have something like a simple quasi-crystalline pattern. And this is inside, this is outside, and I'm happy to have here that kind of pattern with decomposition of the traditional tiles into square and rhombus. Now, here you can see the scale of the thing. This is very, very well done. I like it. But the bad thing is that I cannot avoid to, and they did that, and I could not change it. It's very bad, very bad. Yes, so now another, about this project. How long, how much time I have? Have to.
I'll tell you right now. You talk and I listen.
Yeah, okay. So, something that happened with this pattern. The 10 minutes. Okay. The story with traditional patterns and quasi-crystal. The first, my first work on it was in the early, maybe at the 18th, so something, working on the leaf. I was. I saw that the main structure is based on a pattern made with square and rhombus that can be interpreted as quasi-crystal. So after this project with Foster, I realized that there is each tile itself can be considered as part of a quasi-crystal and etc. For example, if I take this standard pattern, I can decompose each tile like this. So now another project, this one's Blue City, a project in Oman. So I was starting from a very standard pattern in Oman and do something until I got my grid. And after, I can do variations and variation and variation from the same pattern in order to have screens that more or less efficient for shadows. And sometimes you can get very strange things like that. Another project. I'll show you Shanghai Expo because it's one of my favorite. Yes, it's only octagon. I start from octagon and I put octagon into octagon. It's like a fractal process. But the nice thing, this is well known maybe, but the special thing was to mix the layers. Yeah. Here you have layer 1 or 2, yes, to mix that. And to arrange those things into a non-periodic pattern. Now, one of my favorite is in Masdar, the new city of Masdar. Maybe you already have seen images of this. So that the works. So we have 3 families based on the same model. 3 families, the same background structure, and this looks like Islamic, but have nothing to do with all the construction you have heard about before. It's something really new. With here study with 2 layers, and here it's the pattern for the pavement. The nice thing, I like this photo because here you have the instruction of use to make it. So it's not so bad. And now the balconies are made in China. It's unbelievable, and they come by boat. And after they are clipped on the facade like that. And yes, and I like very much. I'm very, very happy with this project. And we have also inside it's a nice light and nice shadows. And here it's something very more simple, because here it's a lab. So I wanted something that evoke quasi-crystal, and it have to look like non-repetitive, but made with industrial techniques that have to be repetitive. But there is something very tricky. I don't have time to talk about, but it's very, very, very nice space indeed. So this was just decorative, and I'm very happy with this panel, because you can climb it. Next is last project was for Abu Dhabi, and I finished with that. This project just will not be constructed because. The client changed his mind because of money. But it was the interesting thing here is that I was working at the starting point of the thing, and that's important with geometric patterns. Geometry in architecture have to go with the structure, and but. Architects, they don't mind, they do the structure, and after they call me, can you do this? But geometric decoration, it's not like wallpaper. It has to go with the structure. And here I was talking directly with the expert of structure. And something very nice happened, is that for some reason I wanted to work with the 7. Some reason, of course, expert in structure like the 5 for a sphere. And this project was for the new council of the Emirates. So, how many Emirates we have?
7.
Yeah. Oh, man. We have 7 Emirates. Huh? And for each Emirate, we have 1 star like that. For each Emirate, we have 1 star of 5. So finally, what happens? Look here, we have a star of a pentagon. But how many pentagons we have all around? We have 7. 7. So I think for this project, it's something that makes sense. Huh? So. Okay, and inside we can have nice things with shadow. And my idea was that at night, during the day, you have something that looks very simple, and at night with light, it was possible to change the appearance.
Are they going to build it? Or?
No, because of money. Money.
No, I don't think that this is money problem. They wanted to have something that looks much modern. Okay, this is for them too traditional.
No. The issue was the risk was because this project is not a huge penis like everything I do. It's something like a matrix, it's more feminine. Yes, but.
Who's the architect?
Foster.
The architect that won that project was Stephen Ehrlich in California.
Well, this is Foster.
But this is Foster.
Jean-Marc,
Yes.
I should give you a good news that sometimes when your project is rejected, you become more famous in future.
Yes.
You know, this has happened to this school, Topkapi school. Najib Oğlu says that perhaps that was one of those schools that was suggested to be built. Guru Najib Oğlu says that perhaps the Topkapi school was one of the schools that was suggested to Khalifa, the Ottoman Sultan.
Yeah.
And he rejected.
Yes.
And that's why they put it in the library. And now we have it. If not, if he wanted to use it, we didn't have it at all. So don't worry, in 200 years from now, everybody say that Jean-Marc was dome or something like that.
I'm very happy with that. Thank you, Reza. So I think now, more question? I had a lot of. No, just want to say that now in Casablanca you have a kind of copy of my work for Central Market. It's funny, but a bad copy, but very huge on a Novotel hotel, on the facade of the Novotel hotel.
I just have a suggestion that you be sure that the Aga Khan knows of this design, because 7 is an important number for the Ismaili community because of the 7th Imam after Ali going into occlusion.
Thank you.
They have a very beautiful center in England, London.
Oh yeah.
Reza.
Australia what?
In Australia, they built a new.
In Australia, they are building Ismaili people. They finished it all. There is a center in London, just in front of a museum of Victoria and Albert. This is the Ismaili Center. If you are there in London, go and visit the place. It's really gorgeous. When you go in, there is a kind of heptagonal pound, and then 7 steps go up as 7 steps of sky and all. And perhaps they really appreciate such a design to be located there.
Yeah.
Think about it.
So.
Actually, the thing is, how much such geometrical patterns and forms has governance over architectural design, maybe. You know what I mean?
To what extent does the geometric pattern dictate or inform?
Dictates.
Inform the actual architecture itself.
Is it like architecture sometimes could? What I see here, maybe like a maybe a slave of geometrical patterns, maybe.
Can you answer to this question?
Yeah. From my experience in the modern context, very little. Very few modern architects are thinking in terms of having their buildings be determined by the ornament. But traditionally, it's much more the case. For example, yesterday when we went to the Tile Museum at the Topkapi, if you looked up, you saw the ceilings, and the ceilings had these star nets. Now, that's not traditional in Morocco. It was an importation as a decorative ceiling device. But in Central Asia, Persia, and even in India, this same system of vaulting is used widely. And this is a case where the proportions of the stars and the way they elongate certain points and bring them down to the ground, or the stars themselves dictate the proportions of the space, rectilinear spaces and square spaces, and so that's a case in point where the proportions of the building in plan are directly determined by the vaulting system. And so Jean-Marc was saying that ideally the ornamentalist is involved at a very early stage to be able to help with the architecture to create ideal proportions. And he's absolutely right that that's the ideal. But too often in this day and age, people like Jean-Marc or myself are brought in at the end and asked to make something look beautiful, but sometimes it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.